möchte zuerst die ganzen Deutschsprecher in Deutschland und in Österreich und in der Schweiz, wer halt Deutsch versteht, wer halt Deutsch spricht, herzlich begrüßen. Ich bin in Leipzig zum ersten Mal beim Periscope Rally. Aber ich wäre sonst in Englisch reden, weil es gibt natürlich viel mehr englisch sprechende Leute auf Periscope. So that was my brief introduction in German. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And as you know, my name is Bernie Aird. I'm at Aird Waves, based in Austria. And I've been asked to speak about my experiences on Periscope with regard to bringing over some musical things, some songs and all that kind of thing. But as I've got at least 30 minutes, I want to try and spread it out a bit and maybe tell you all about the story, my life story, my experience with Periscope these past 6 months. I look at Periscope as being a reflection of my life. These past 6 months, I have been bringing aspects of my life into my broadcasts. Whether it's my background in Austria, showing mountains and snow-capped peaks and cascading waterfalls, to playing guitar and singing, to maybe playing a bit of piano music sometimes, to bring you excitement, to bring you adventure. I'm excited when I do my scopes, usually, when I'm in some sort of wonderful position overlooking the valley. I really, really want to get that excitement over to everybody. And I've had a lot of adventure in my life, I must admit. I haven't always looked for it, but it's just happened. It's just happened. So it's excitement, it's adventure, it's emotions that I try and bring across in my scopes. So I'm going to give you a bit of background to me now. The way I look at it now, and the Periscope is helping me enjoy probably what will be my last third of my life. If I have some bad luck, it could be the last quarter of my life. That's the way I look at it. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but just gives you an idea. So Periscope has come along, and all the things that I wanted to do and I've done in my life are now coming to the fore, and I'm trying to put them into my scopes. So that's how I see it. Anyway, my story is this. I've been living in Austria for 12 years. I married an Austrian about 28 years ago. We have a son. He was born in Mittersill in Austria. He's now 28 and 29 actually, sorry. And after he was born, we moved to England. But that's a bit confusing because I just happened to be in Austria at the time when he was born. Before that, I lived in England. I was born in Bath, in Somerset. My mum and dad were from Austria, from the Tyrol, or very close to the Tyrol, as far as my dad was concerned. But he had a Scottish surname, Aird. His father was German, who came from a place called Bad Kreuznach, or very close to Bad Kreuznach. His father, my grandfather, was born in London, and his father was born in Scotland. That's where the Airds came from the Black Isle. And you're probably wondering, well, where's the English and the Austrian and the German connection come into it? Well, this was something that we never really had much discussion with as children with our parents. But going right back in time, my great-great-grandfather, John Aird, started a company in 1848, laying mains, laying water pipes, laying gas mains in London. In fact, there's been books written about the family business. And in one case, they say there's not many streets in London where John Aird and his team of navvies didn't lay mains, pipes, or whatever. So that was 1848, and they started this business, and it grew into an international building contracting company. So much so that they were doing massive projects, Avonmouth docks, Tilbury docks. They were involved in the London Underground, you know, the initial building of tunnels for the London Underground and the rail laying and what have you. They went on to do things in Europe. They went on to do great things in the world, Singapore Harbour. They went on to build the Aswan Dam in Egypt on the River Nile. That was probably the family's business's biggest conquest, the biggest achievement. And this John Aird, my great-great-grandfather, born in 1801, died in 1876, he had about 8 children. One of his sons was Alexander Aird, who was my great-grandfather. And at the age of 20, he sent his son to the continent. He said, we're building gas works and waterworks in Copenhagen. We're going to do something in Berlin, Berlin Wasserwerke. We want you to be over there. You need to look after the family's interests. So my great-grandfather did that at the age of 20. He got married very quickly before he left London. And he had his first 2 children in Copenhagen because they were building there. And the rest of his family were born in various places in Berlin, where they had their homes, where they had their offices and their showrooms and what have you, in Gdansk. That's part of Prussia in those days, where he did the complete canalization of the city of Gdansk. He had his 13 children with one wife on the continent, pretty much, you can say, mostly in Germany. And one of the 13, whose name was Valdemar, who was my grandfather, I never knew him. My dad never knew him. He died before my dad was born. He left Germany. He didn't want to be in the family business, and he met my grandmother in Kitzbühel in Austria. And that's how the Austria thing happened. Now, I'm telling you this because this has colored my life. It's colored my life with all sorts of interesting things, some of which we didn't find out until very much later, you know. So I think there's been adventure in the family. There's been movement from one country to another. The Scottish were very keen, you know, they were good workers, they're engineers, some of them, and they went to wherever the work was, you know, and that's how we came to live in Austria at the end of the day, or my parents did anyway. They were born in Austria. And my dad grew up as a young boy, and he experienced the First World War. He was in the Second World War as a German soldier. All the Austrians were snapped up into the German army. He had a very colorful army career, if you can call it that. He was just a normal soldier. And he was sent to various places, including Königsberg, to the Wolfschanze. He was stationed there for a while, which was one of Adolf Hitler's bases in Germany at the time, Königsberg. And then he was sent to Yugoslavia. He was fighting off Tito. And then, with his division, he was sent to the Ukraine. He was in the Ukraine fighting on the German front against the Russians. And he was lucky enough to survive the war. He was prisoner of war. He came back, and I think he walked back pretty much from where he was prisoner of war, and married my mother in 1951, and decided, because one of the German-born relations then was living in London, Florence, who was born in Berlin, I think, she said, come to England, start a new life. You know, because Austria was very poor, there was no work. And so my dad went over to England. He was actually there before the war, a couple of years. Then he went back to Austria. But then he brought my mum over. She wasn't very keen. My mum didn't speak any English, you know, she was Tyrolean. So we settled in Bath, where the distant relative was living. She was living in London, but when the Blitz came, she had to move to Bath. So that's why we ended up in Bath. That's why I was born in Bath, in Somerset, and that's where I was in school, and that's where I grew up. So that's the background. So Austria has always been in our blood, of course, as children, my sister and my brother and I. My sister was a year older, my brother was a year and a half younger. And yeah, we had a lovely upbringing, an Austrian upbringing, Catholic upbringing. When my dad earned some money, he was a catering manager in various hotels in Bath. He would then allow us to go to Austria to see the relatives in the summer. And we used to go by boat and by train from Calais all the way to Innsbruck. It was a wonderful train journey, adventure, fantastic adventure that some of my friends were not experiencing. So then, moving on now a little bit, I grew up in the 60s, and the 60s was a wonderful time in many ways, you know, in England. There was the music, it was the music primarily. I remember at 13 years of old getting a tennis racket as a Christmas present. And I remember using it as a guitar. I was trying to pretend I was playing guitar because I was seeing the Beatles on the television and all these other pop groups. And I was so mesmerized by that. I wanted to do it. I wanted to be in show business in some way, you know. I wanted to attain. So the Beatles were my guiding light in life, particularly when my mother died in 1967. She died very young. She died at 53. I was 13. My brother was almost 12. I think he was 11. My sister was about 14. So we lost our mum through illness very, very suddenly. And that was quite a blow, you know, needless to say. And yeah, so music became more and more important to me, you know, and I taught myself to play guitar and I taught myself to play piano. I tried to play the parts on the Beatles records. The Beatles were my teachers. I wasn't achieving anything academic at school, really. You know, I was quite good at history, geography, I could draw, and I didn't come away with too many exams. But I came away having this musical influence, playing instruments and what have you. And I had several periods of being unemployed because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I did know what I wanted to do. Let me tell you what I wanted to do. I wanted to play football for Manchester United. I wanted to be in the Beatles or a band like the Beatles. My mum and dad said, no, 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 you have to have an apprenticeship. Du musst was lernen. Du musst einen Lehrgang haben oder sowas. The old-fashioned thinking, you know, it was apprenticeships. I was thinking, yeah, but what? You know, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not clever enough. So I drifted from job to job. My sister and my brother, they were in grammar school. They kind of knew what they wanted to do, or they found their niche much more quickly. And I, being in the secondary modern school, Hauptschule, took my time in trying to find what I wanted to do. And my brother worked for Thomas Cook's. And in 81, 82, he said, there's a job going here as a ski rep in Austria, in an Austrian resort called Elmau, Tirol. So I applied for it because I could speak German and I could almost ski. I was okay at skiing. I wasn't great at skiing. I learned to ski at 27. My cousins in Tirol, they skied at 4 or 5. So I was a very late starter, but I got this rep as a tour guide. I got this job as a tour guide in Elmau, Tirol. And it was a fantastic. Do you know what I experienced in those 4 years of being a rep? Can you imagine? All these English holiday makers coming to have holiday, coming to have good time. Toboggan nights, bowling nights, fondue evenings, you know, you name it. I had to guide the coach tours in the summer. But and I could choose the prettiest girl that arrived on the coach sometimes. You know. That's the most important. We know that's where you go. At the age of 27, I actually started life. I didn't do a lot of that before then, you know. And it was a wonderful experience. It really was. And I happened to work for a company. It was a startup company that became the market leader and is now the market leader in England. I was with that company for 20 years. So that's the story of how I came into travel. And I'm still in the travel industry. I've been in tourism since '82. Wow. I didn't always work in Austria. I worked in Austria seasonally. I came over for the winter, went back to England, came over for the summer, went back to England. And so on it went. And then I got the job for the tour operator in England on the sales side. And they used to send me all over the place. They sent me to Norway and Sweden to do contracts, to make negotiations with the hotels to buy the beds. And then they sent me to North America, which was the best phase of my life. I had 4 or 5 years almost of being the North American contracts manager. I went to all the ski resorts. California, Colorado, Utah, Vermont, New Hampshire, British Columbia, Montreal, and Alberta. And I had to deal with all these hotels and all this kind of stuff. It was just brilliant. It really was brilliant. And I never thought of England. I never thought of Austria. I was over there. But all the time that I was over there, which used to be in 2-month stints, I left my wife and child in England. I've always been lucky enough to be able to go after my job, you know, and if the company said we'd like you to go there, I went. And they wanted me to live in America, and I didn't. I said I want to stay in England. I have a wife and young son. So they allowed me to stay in England, and I used to travel over to Denver and LA and all over the place to try and do this job. That was tremendous adventure. I went to all the sightseeing places, Las Vegas and Grand Canyon, and you know, all these lovely places to visit. And it was a job. I couldn't believe my luck. You know, this was my job. And then in recent years, that North American thing finished about 2001, 2002. And we moved to Austria. My wife and my son moved to Austria in 2002. I was offered a new job, and I had to be in Austria to complete this job. Tell me if I'm going over the time, go on. And it was exciting again because it was a company that didn't have a program in Austria, and again, I was there to build the program up. That's a challenge. That's a real challenge, and it succeeded. And when I look back at my life, I've had lots of exciting challenges, lots of adventure, lots of good things happening mostly. So all that has brought me to where I am today. We moved here in 2002. My son lives and works in Austria. My ex-wife, join the club, is my best friend, and she works for the company as well in Austria and does a great job. And I'm responsible for the commercial end of it. I have to go and to all the hotels and resorts and make contracts with them for next year. So now in January, I'll be doing contracting for next winter. So that's how it goes. And in the summer, I'll do the contracts for the next summer. That brings me all over the mountains. Yeah, 1 year ahead. And again, I'm in beautiful resorts such as Ischgl, Galtier, Obergürtel, Sölden, Kitzbühel. Weniger, yeah. Seefeld, Innsbruck, Salzburg, you know. And growing up in England, there was not just great music in the 60s, there was wonderful films. You remember Where Eagles Dare? Clint Eastwood and Richard Burton, one of the greatest war films. It has a different title in Austria. That was made in Werfen and Salzburg area, you know, in the castle of Werfen. And I've scoped from there as well. The Sound of Music. What better film is there? Oh, Sound of Music. It was our best film. We went to see it with our mum before she died, needless to say. Great film. It was always had a place in our hearts, my brother and sister and I, and everybody who went to see it. My Austrian relatives never heard of it. They're not interested in the Sound of Music, the Austrians. So that's why. And then, of course, more recently, the excitement of having James Bond filming in Austria. Do you know how exciting that was for me? They were filming in the village that very close to where my dad was born. And he was born in 1907, my dad. And needless to say, he's not very well at the moment. No, he's not around. He's not around. 1907, it's a long time ago, isn't it? In the most unlikely of villages, they filmed the James Bond scene. I don't know whether you've seen Spectre.
Yeah.
Where the aeroplane flew into the barn.
My husband was skiing there at the time.
Was he? Right. Well, I was just, knocked out by this. And I went there a year ahead, knowing that they're building this barn, especially for the film, and then they've recently taken it down. I did a couple of scopes from the James Bond film locations in that village, and also in Solden on the glacier, where they showed the big cube height, ice house, as they call it, a bit 3,000 meters. I've done a couple of scopes from there. And if that isn't exciting, well, what is? My life is full of excitement. I'm channeling all that excitement now into my scopes. I've missed out the bit where I was in England writing songs in the 70s and recording them in the 70s in my own studio. I had a little studio upstairs in the attic. On a 4-track tape recorder, I used to play all the instruments, guitar, bass, drums, piano, and then I put my voice on, and then sometimes a harmony voice. It was the Beatles' influence that made me want to do it. Well, Mike Oldfield did a really good solo album, Tubular Bells. These were my helden, my heroes, and I wanted to try it, and I did, and I wrote and recorded songs, and those songs are now on the internet. I put them on the internet about 6 years ago on SoundCloud, and I made a couple of videos in recent years to go with the songs on YouTube. So it's been songwriting that was at the heart of me when I started Periscope. I suddenly thought, oh, Periscope, broadcasting. I could talk about my songs. I could play my songs. I could play them over the speakers or play them live or something. And very quickly, I suddenly began to realize, why am I doing this? This is a lot of work, Why am I missing out on this beautiful scenery that's all around me? The Austrian mountains. I just go out on my balcony and I do a scope. And I'm in the tourism industry, and I need an excuse to tell my employers I'm actually doing it for the good. I'm doing it for the good of our program. I'm doing it for travel reasons. So I decided to become the travel person in Austria, to show the highest mountain, to show the most beautiful scenery, the highest waterfalls, to cycle on my bike and take the camera with me, cycling one-handed, to hike up the mountain and scope, to play guitar on occasions, play piano even on occasions, to appeal to maybe another section of the market on Periscope. It was allowing me to do all these things, and it is such fun. And I'm lucky enough to be able to say, when I press that red button, I'm really looking forward to speaking to my audience. And I want to try and get more people. I would love to get more people to follow me. So I try and provide interesting content. I want to vary it. I don't go out with my dog every day, the same path. I haven't got a dog anyway. I've got a cat. We know who you're talking about. I've got a cat called Snoopy, and Snoopy sometimes appears on the videos, But no, it's mainly because I need to go to Ischgl and then Obergödel and then various other places that I can go there and do my job. And then if I get a quick half an hour, do a quick scope. And that enables me to do the Sound of Music scopes, crossing over the border into Bavaria, to do the Eagle's Nest, Kehlstein House, and also to show where Julie Andrews made the opening scene of the film. And yesterday you were talking about Germany and the restrictions. I experienced it myself. I approached the Berchtesgadener tourist office. Berchtesgaden is a lovely resort in Bavaria. To say, oh, hi, by the way, my name's Bernie. I'm in the travel industry. I work for Hotel Plan Limited. I want to go and film in the field where Julie Andrews did the opening scene of The Sound of Music. Oh, das geht nicht so leicht. Du brauchst eine Genehmigung oder irgendwas. Du brauchst das und das und das. Ja, ich habe gesagt, aber ich will einfach, I only want to scope it. I just want to go there. Well, it was a real challenge because I had to go to the people that owned the field, and they're a very famous family of climbers, the Huber Brüder.
Okay.
They bought this field after The Sound of Music was made, and they are fed up to here with journalists coming to say, can we go into your field and take a photograph? So I went there and did the polite thing. The brothers were in the Himalayas climbing, and the lady said, no, das geht nicht. Nein, Sie sind nicht erlaubt. Es tut mir leid, Sie dürfen nicht in das Feld hineingehen, um ein Foto zu machen. Okay, danke. So I said, okay, well, thanks. Sorry, I'm not allowed to make a photo in the field. I wanted to do a scope, actually.
Yeah.
So I walked away, and I suddenly thought, well, I've come all this way, I'm going to do this. So I went round the back, through the forest, came out of the forest.
This is amazing. To Periscope.
And I was in the field where Julie Andrews was standing. You know, I was shaking. I was thinking, God, hopefully nobody can see me.
Trespassing.
Yeah, I was trespassing. And this is the excitement of Periscope sometimes. You know, you're doing things perhaps you shouldn't be doing. And it's no problem. You know, why is there such restrictions? Austria is quite casual about it. I'm able to go anywhere in Austria, except Mozart's birth house. They didn't want me to scope in there, in the Getreidegasse in Salzburg. So I was so excited, and I got the angle. But I remember Julie Andrews coming over the hill. You know, I got the exact angle because you could see the mountains in the background, and it was a nice day, and the grass was about the same height as The Sound of Music. You remember all these things, and it's on Catch if you want to go and look in the back catalogue, catch.me. Yeah. That was tremendously exciting to be in that field because that film meant a lot to a lot of people, and I bring it into my scopes. You know, I like to play guitar and sing, and I like it. I like the feeling of people singing along with me, and you can usually see it in the emoticons, whatever you call them, emojis. That's what I do. You know, I bring all these aspects of scopes into my scopes, and I want to make them entertaining. I want to surprise. You know, sometimes I've opened a scope with me hanging over a ledge, a mountain ledge with a huge waterfall cascading down behind me, you know, quite a long way up, the Krimmel waterfalls in Austria, or from 3,000 meters. I do scopes from up there on a really windy and wintry day, and the snow's blowing that way, and I'm there trying to, and I get a signal. It's exciting when you get a signal as well.
It's amazing.
So I like to entertain, and
Beck Boop just invited to a photo. So
oh, wonderful! Thank you, Beck. Thank you. I look forward to meeting you, Beck.
Jenny inspired also. Nice.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, so I like to surprise, and just by chance, because of the Bond movie being filmed in Austria, part of it, I decided that I looked a little bit like James Bond coming up on the chairlift on one occasion with my coat up like this, with my sunglasses on. So I decided to do a video in tribute to James Bond being filmed in Austria, and I called it Shaken Not Stirred, and it starred Bernie Bond. So I wanted to become Bernie Bond, yeah, and I drove my car quite fast through the streets. It's a short video, 2.5 minutes. It's on YouTube, by the way, if you want to watch it. Yeah, it's under Bernie. Paul O'Mahony in Cork very kindly put it on his blog. He put my story on his blog.
Wow. And
the video. So if you want to watch Paul O'Mahony, watch his blog as well, Omniblog, I think it's called, and you'll see kind of my story on there. So what else was there? Oh yes, the Von Trapp connection. I was lucky enough to be in the Scope Day, the original Scope Day, some few weeks ago, and the guy that organized it, Mike Lynn, yeah, he said, "Can you do a scope from Salzburg?" And I said, "Yeah, with pleasure." So I joined another lady who I'd never met before. I met her on one occasion, actually, very briefly. And I said, "Judy, can we do the Julie Andrews Captain Von Trapp thing?" And we went through the Mirabel Garden singing Edelweiss and Do, a deer, female deer. Yeah, we did that, the Scope Day. And it was 10 minutes long. It should have been 15, but somehow the last few, through maybe a poor signal. But I want to do more of that. I want to do more of that kind of stuff because I enjoy it, you know. And thank you everybody that's been following me. It's been lovely. I couldn't wish for anything better to see all those hearts coming in, see all those people enjoying it. Sometimes there's less people, but then that's depending on the time of day. I'm never able to choose my own time. I just do it spontaneously in between my work. And thank you for your support, everybody. I look forward to being back in Austria and doing some ski scopes. I'm a big passionate skier cross-country wise, and I need to speak to you, but maybe having some camera here, Günther can give me some advice. I want to have a camera that I can still pole away with my skis and it's showing, and I'm able to see maybe some of the comments coming in. So I'm looking forward to doing cross-country skiing with you guys on some decent snow. We haven't got great snow at the moment in Austria. It's only on the very tops. So a lot to look forward to. Hats off to Sibyl and to Goran here in Leipzig, who are doing a great job. And there's some very interesting speakers, some of which we heard last night, some of which we're going to hear today. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm thoroughly pleased to be here for the full duration, almost. And I look forward to meeting Beck and Euro Maestro if he comes on Sunday. And thanks a lot. Bye for now.